support whatever you want.
Okay, you got support. I haven't heard anything from Mr. Hopkins. So,
Kristen Oregano coming to live at your house.
say it again?
Kristen Oregano coming to live at your house.
You got some?
I have lots. I have like an acre.
Yeah, give me some. I'll put
So,
some
well,
in my garden.
Donna said she wanted it. So whether you want it or not, it's coming to live at your house. It's a penny. It's weeping into my face bushes.
Do we have anybody here that Mr. Hopkins phone
Weep
number?
or mourn. I have him on Facebook. I can see if I can get him on my phone. Facebook. He's sleeping already.
Just like get a hold of one of the council members and see what he's at.
7 o'clock right now.
I'm calling it.
Okay.
Okay, you are?
On Facebook.
Hey, Gary, just the mayor wants you to know what they're saying. Okay, perfect, thank you. He's just outside the door.
Oh, well, then I won't be back.
What a brief minute, Councilor Hopkins was just outside the door. How far outside the door?
Sure, like I said, he's trying. Do you need a stopwatch? Do I have one of my purse?
Thank you, Ms. Hopkins. Okay, at this time, call a special meeting of the Cedar Springs City Council, May 26th to order. Would you all please rise with me and recite the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Anyone please with any cell phones, if you would please turn them down to mute. Have a roll call vote. Mr. Clark. Here. Mr. Hopkins. Here. Mrs. Nixon. Mrs. Powell.
Here.
Mr. Truesdale. Here. Mrs. Conley.
Here.
Mr. Hall votes yes.
Mr. Mayor, would you like a motion to excuse Ms. Nixon from being late?
Please. She will be coming in. She said she would be late due to a work issue.
Okay. I will make a motion to excuse Mrs. Nixon.
Second. Pardon? Who's second? You get that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by saying no. Motion carries to excuse Ms. Nixon for late. Moving on. We don't have our public comment. I don't have my dialogue to read.
At this time, the council will entertain public comment.
Okay, at this time, the council will entertain comments to the podium to address the council. We will not answer your questions or address your questions or concerns. If any, you must put them in writing and submit them to the city manager. And then if no resolution is reached, then it will be relayed to myself, the mayor, and then to the council at whole. Everyone, please state your name and address for the record, and you will have a moment of 4 minutes to speak. At this time, is there anyone here wishing to address the council? Go ahead.
Will I be allowed more than 4 minutes?
Go ahead. We don't allow any personal attacks, either from us or you, but go ahead and proceed. If, in fact, it does run on, I will stop you, okay?
Mr. Mayor, can I suggest that we yell when we speak at action item A?
No. The will of the council. Go proceed, Mr. Freed.
Good evening. Jason Rosenzweig, 2944 South Saddle Ridge Court, Rockford, Michigan. As I've been made aware that this meeting of the City Council is being held to discuss my termination from the position of Cedar Springs Assessor, I would like to make you aware that the Council has no authority to terminate my employment. Section 3.6 of the City of Cedar Springs Charter provides that there shall be within the administrative services of the city a clerk, treasurer, assessor, attorney, health officer, chief of police, fire chief, and such additional administrative officers as may be created by ordinance or resolution. That section goes on to say that the council may by ordinance or resolution create the office of city manager and specify the duties, authorities, and responsibilities of such office. The council created the office of city manager by ordinance number 17 adopted January 9, 1969. Section 3.6 continues. In the event such office is created, the council may provide that any administrative officer or department of the city except the attorney shall be placed under the administrative direction of such manager, and in such event the manager shall have the power to appoint, subject to confirmation by the council, such administrative officers of the city as are placed under his administrative direction, and shall have the power to discharge such administrative officers without confirmation of the council. As I stated priorly, ordinance number 17 adopted January 9, 1969 created the office of city manager. That ordinance under section 2.272 describes the functions and duties of the city manager, one of which is to employ or be responsible for the employment of all city employees. Section 2.73 deals with interference from the council. It states that A, except for purposes of inquiry, the council and its members shall deal with the administrative service for which the city manager is responsible solely through the manager, and neither the council nor any member thereof shall have authority to or shall give orders to any subordinate employee of the city, either publicly or privately. Section 2.73 continues B. No member of the council shall direct or request the following: the appointment of any person to, or the removal of any person from, any employment or office for which the city manager is responsible. Yesterday, the city mayor visited me during my office hours and broke the law when he asked me for my resignation. Furthermore, the purpose of this meeting violates the charter, as the city council does not have the authority to fire an employee, as that responsibility rests solely with the city manager. Furthermore, it's my understanding that my replacement has already been secured. That is another violation of your law, and that either the council as a whole or the mayor has requested the appointment of a person for which the city manager is responsible. You may feel that I am not an employee and that I am instead a contractor. This is not true. I was hired by the previous city manager with confirmation of this council. My employment agreement states that the city intends to employ me. I have never been considered an independent contractor. Some of the reasons that I cannot be considered as an independent contractor are that I am a public official. Because I sign and certify the assessment roll, I am considered a public official. Public officials by law must be employees. Secondly, I have never been paid as an independent contractor. I have received employee paychecks where the employer pays their portion of employer taxes and holds the employee portion of the payroll taxes in escrow. I have received a W-2, which only employees receive, and have never received a 1099 as would be designated for an independent contractor. Third, my employment agreement specifies that I will hold office hours. By law, once I am required to hold office hours, I cannot be considered an independent contractor. As you can see, I am an employee and not a contractor. Therefore, the council has no authority to give me orders or remove me from office. And doing so would be a violation of the law. While I do not have a contract, I do have an employment agreement. As stated before, the agreement does spell out terms of my termination. However, as I have previously stated, that termination may only come from the city manager and only under terms that are spelled out in the agreement. Those terms are as follows. A, this agreement may be terminated by either party upon 30 days prior written notice to the other party. I have not received 30 days written notice from the city manager, and therefore I cannot be terminated unless I receive such notice. However, such notice can only come from the city manager and may not be influenced by this council. B, if either party shall give written notice to the other that the other party has substantially defaulted in the performance of any obligation under this agreement, and such default shall not have been cured within 15 days following the giving of such notice, this agreement shall terminate on any future date specified in such notice. I have not received notice, nor have I ever defaulted in performance. Therefore, I cannot be dismissed by the city manager under this provision. C, Mr. Rosenzweig fails to maintain his qualifications as provided in this agreement, the agreement shall automatically terminate immediately. I have not failed to maintain my qualifications. D, the city may terminate this agreement at any time if for any reason the city becomes dissatisfied with the work of Mr. Rosenzweig, since Mr. Rosenzweig is an at-will employee of the city. Provision D is in conflict with Provision A of the agreement. Any later provision that is in conflict with prior provisions revert back to the first provision. If the city manager chooses to utilize this provision in conflict with provision A, then I will have the right of wrongful termination and the ability to sue for lost wages. It is also my understanding that a new interim city manager will be appointed tonight. That means only this new manager may terminate my employment with 30 days written notice and no influence from this council. It would be my opinion that this new city manager would have to work with me for a while to determine if he or she felt that I should be dismissed. Should this council vote tonight to terminate my employment, it will be in direct violation of your city charter and ordinances. Section 8.13 of your charter cites penalties for such violation. Any officer of the city found guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction of any act declared by this charter to constitute misconduct in office may be punished by a fine of not to exceed $500 or imprisonment for not to exceed 90 days, or both, in the discretion of the court. The punishment provided in this section shall be in addition to that of having the office declared as vacant. Therefore, any council member who votes to have me terminated can likely be removed from your position should I intend to litigate. As I understand it, the purpose of my termination will be because I have properly followed my employee agreement, which states that I will follow all aspects of the General Property Tax Act and all guidelines of the State Tax Commission. As I stated in a previous council meeting, and as the city attorney has opined in her memo, I am following the law by putting the city-owned property on the assessment roll. The State Tax Commission is responsible for my licensing and education. It was the State Tax Commission who told me to look closer at the statute to make sure that your property was being used for a public use. Your own city attorney has provided you with an opinion that I have assessed the city property correctly. You should also know that the State Tax Commission knows exactly what is transpiring here. They will be monitoring future assessment rolls and have the ability to seize the whole roll if they find that proper laws are not followed. They also have the ability to discipline any assessor who knowingly violates the law. These properties were not put on the roll because I have an issue with the city or to hurt the city or for any other reason than the law prescribes that they should be on the roll, and I am following the law. I think the majority of you are logical people. I would like you to look inward and ask yourself if you really want to terminate someone for following the law. In summary, I believe this meeting to be a violation of your city charter and ordinances, as the council has no right to terminate me. Only the city manager may terminate an employee. If that city manager so chooses, my employment agreement states that I must have 30 days written notice. Since a new city manager will be appointed tonight, there must be some time for the city manager to work with me to make his own independent decision on my employment. Having said all this, I will tender my resignation under the following conditions. A separation agreement is drawn up by my council and adopted by this council, and part of that separation agreement will be that my salary is to be paid for me for the remainder of the year, which comes to roughly $11,500. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time? Anyone wishing to address the council at this time? Go ahead, Mrs. Brenner.
Well, with the statement that he just gave, it seems to me that there's no reason to continue with this meeting.
Thank you. We have the camera rolling, Ms. Richardson? Thank you. Any other one wishing to address the council at this time? Hearing none. Item 4, adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Nixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Truesdale?
Yes.
Mrs. Conley?
Yes.
Ms. Hall votes yes. I'll let the record show that Mrs. Nixon did show up at approximately 7:12.
We voted to excuse.
We've already been excused, so just let the record show that she is present. Okay, moving on, number 5. A. Considering the termination of city assessor, we have a resolution drafted by the city attorney. What's the rules, council?
Yes, I'm trying to get to
It's
it.
the next one down. It'll be resolution number 12, resolution determination of the city's employment relationship with the city assessor.
Mr. Mayor, I make a resolution to terminate the city's employment relationship with the city assessor, whereas by contract date, January 13th, 2015, the city retained Mr. Rosenzweig to act as the city's assessor, and whereas the ability to contract and bind the city rests with the city council pursuant to the state law and the city's charter, and whereas in accordance with the contract with Mr. Rosenzweig, reports to the city manager and the city council, and whereas section 3.2D of the contract provides that the city may terminate the contract at any time if for any reason the city becomes dissatisfied with Mr. Rosenzweig's work, given his status as an at-will employee of the city, and whereas the council believes that the action of Mr. Rosenzweig in placing certain city-owned property on the tax rolls were not properly analyzed or communicated to the council, and whereas the council has made Mr. Rosenzweig aware of its dissatisfaction and offered him an opportunity at tonight's meeting to address the council, and whereas pursuant to the city charter, the city assessor answers to and serves at the pleasure of the city council. Now therefore it is resolved. The rectals set forth above are acknowledged to be correct and are affirmed and is fully set forth herein.
It's been moved in second. Is there any
I
further?
don't know that there's a second.
Second. Okay, it has been seconded, Mr. Clark. Is there any discussion?
Actually, there's some additional pieces of this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I read section 1. Shall I do 2, 3, and 4?
Yes.
Would like to amend my motion to include section 2, 3, and 4. Upon due consideration, the City Council concludes that it has lost confidence in Mr. Rosenzweig's performance in his role as City Assessor and has become dissatisfied in the same. 3, based on the foregoing, the City Council terminates Mr. Rosenzweig's employment relationship with the City effective immediately pursuant to Section 3.2D in Mr. Rosenzweig's contract. 4, the City Council authorizes and directs the City Manager to take all actions necessary to effectuate this resolution. 5, all resolutions and parts of resolution in conflict herewith are to the extent of such conflict repealed.
Okay.
With the second,
Second.
to
No,
support
you're
my...
right. Is there any further discussion on this resolution number 12?
And just to absolutely clarify, this was drafted by our attorney, and he says that we have the authority to
Yes.
go forward. Okay.
Yes.
There's that question too, if it's, year 19 something,
Yeah.
about
There's
it,
been-
involved in anything.
This is drafted by
Mr. Sluggett
Mr. Sluggett.
personally, and he had talked with Ms. Christian and myself back and forth, and he claimed this is his own language.
And for transparency, we need the month's notice, like what we do with House and recall and other stuff, so that
Last month we discussed it. I would have made the motion, but we couldn't.
we thought we should seek counsel before.
We did that.
I also requested a vote of no confidence, you might recall.
I remember that. But I'm just wondering, because we haven't really given the public opportunity to speak to us on this, so.
We can waive policy 12.
Make sure it's.
Would you like to make a motion to waive policy 12? We can do that.
What's your choice? Or do we call for a question?
Now you say it's something we're gonna have to ask July for.
What do you want to do? Do you want to call for the question to vote, or do you want to do policy 12 to waive?
Anyway, better wait policy 12.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, make a motion to wait policy 12.
I will support that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded in supporting motion number 12, which would be waive the 1-month preliminary hearing on the termination of the city assessor. Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Nixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Truesdale?
Yes.
Mrs. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Hall votes yes. Okay, there's an existing motion on the floor for approval of resolution number 12. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion before I call the vote? Hearing none. Mrs. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Truesdale? Yes. Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mrs. Nixon?
Yes.
Mr. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Hall? Motion carried, votes yes. Moving on, to B, consideration of replacement of the city assessor. I believe we should waive that and let the interim manager deal with that.
Okay.
Any questions on that? We can have, I have 2 people contact me today, so I'll refer them to the interim manager and let her move with that. Does that, everybody agrees with that?
Sure.
Item B, how would we want to dismiss that from the agenda,
You want it table?
Linda?
I think we just
Postpone.
did waiving it.
I can't, one at a time, please.
I think we just did by the action that you took.
Okay.
Okay.
Everybody agree with that consensus?
That's fine.
Okay, and item C, a motion to approve hiring an interim city manager.
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion to, do you have language for this?
To enter into an agreement with.
To enter into an agreement with Right, I was trying to find her name.
Barbara Van Doren. Mrs. Van Doren.
I would like to make a motion to enter into a proposed agreement as presented at tonight's meeting regarding the hiring of interim manager, Mrs. Van Doren. And I'm sure I butchered that, I apologize.
Barbara Van Doren.
Barbara Van Doren.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Van Doren, would you like to speak to this body? I'll take a word shuffle here.
Good evening. Nice. My name is Barb Van Duren, and I recently retired from the city of Wyoming. I worked there for 15 years as deputy city manager, and prior to that I was a city manager in the city of Wayland, which has a lot of similar characteristics to Cedar Springs. That's where I started. I retired at 58. You're wondering how old I am. My husband is 8 years older than I am, and he had retired previously and wants to do traveling and things like that. So I put my name on the interim manager list with the Michigan Municipal League because I truly believe in local government, this form of government, and I didn't think I was quite done. I was called by a couple of municipalities, but we had travel plans. This summer we're free, and this one I was given a call by the Michigan Municipal League, and they asked if I'd like to give it a shot. And I do want to try to see if it's something that I'm successful at and something that I like to do. So I really appreciate the opportunity you're giving me, the opportunity to work with staff, and prepare you as best as we all can for the new manager that you're looking forward to hiring. If you have any questions of me, I'm more than happy to answer them. Also taught at Grand Valley for 5 years, if you have my resume, and I taught, the Lakers, local politics and administration, and public personnel policy. So I was an instructor there. Stopped that because of budget cuts at the city of Wyoming. We had a millage request that didn't go through, and we had to lay off police and fire. We had to close the Gazan fire station. It was a big hot topic in the news for quite a while. And as we let people, unfortunately laid people off, my job increased. So that is why I stopped teaching. There was just more job responsibilities put on.
Yes. Yeah, she will start May 31st. She will work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and
Thursday, but if you need me other times, it's very adjustable.
Yeah, Mrs. Sluggett took the pleasure of drafting the contract, and she has agreed to it, and so here we are. Thank you. Any further questions of Mrs. Bender? You sure you want to get into this mess? Thank you. Okay.
We appreciate it.
Any further discussion on that matter?
Actually, I just want to make sure that Linda's okay with this, that it's nothing against her. It's just to kind of clean things up.
Correct. I did have a conversation with her Monday regarding
This
this.
was the first that I heard that you were even considering hiring someone to replace me. And I have to say, I feel very disrespected that you didn't talk to me about this.
I did
I
talk.
don't mean any disrespect to Barb, but right now I feel like 22 years of my life is just been flushed down the toilet. And
Thank
I'll be retiring as of July 1st.
Thank you. I talked to you about 3 to 4 weeks ago about this. Sorry.
And didn't we mention this at the council meeting the other night?
Well,
That we said we were concerned, we were overwhelmed?
Okay. So I will. Sure.
Could it be because you couldn't be talked into firing Jason because of Mr. Clark's connection with that club?
Okay, is there any further discussion on Mrs. DeBruy's contract?
No, I just want you to know, Linda, I have the utmost respect for you and everything you do for the city. And, I'm very sorry that you're upset about this, but our only goal was to relieve you of the high pressure jobs, 2 of them even, falling to us, and we appreciate it. And we know there's an election coming up, and lots of buildings, and all sorts of things, and we want to make sure it's just not too much.
You really believe we believe that?
I think you're out of order, man.
Yeah, I may be, but so are you guys.
Don't even rise to the occasion.
Mr. Mayor, may I add?
Sure.
I would just like to add on to what Rose said, and I thought we actually addressed this at the last meeting, that we were very concerned that we knew he wanted to retire. And we thought we had this taken care of when we were going to have a new city manager. And then we didn't have a new city manager because he didn't take the job. And so we wanted you to not be forced to stay here. So we were trying to alleviate that. It wasn't meant to be honestly, if we were that concerned about your ability to do the job, we could have not taken Thad's recommendation to bring you on. So really, it's not about that at all. Terribly sorry if you feel that way.
I think we need to move on the motion on the floor and then do our comments at the end, if you will, please.
Sure.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the contract of interim manager. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I can't vote on this. I have too much respect for Linda.
That's your choice, so. Okay, at this time, I'll call for a roll call vote. Mr. Hopkins?
No.
Mrs. Nixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Truesdale? Mrs. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Hall votes yes. Motion carries 6-1. Okay, now it's in the portion of the meeting, council comments or any communications. Excuse me. Ms. Christian, you have some communications?
What I just handed over to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're at the portion of the meeting on council comments. I would like to start, it's with deep sadness that we do have to take Mrs. Christensen's resignation. We knew it was coming. We had hoped that we could keep you longer, but we knew that you were wanting to retire. And by this appointment of an interim manager was not to chase you off, for a better word. We want you to stay, and I did emphasize that at their meeting on Monday. This is uncomfortable tonight. It's not a good evening. It's not a good meeting when we have to terminate an employee. It's one of the bad things that we do have to do. I don't remember ever in all the years that I was employed in the city that we did terminate an employee other than the city manager. It's not a pleasant thing. Mr. Clark, you would please?
It was my understanding
she had been informed and on the discussions that we had had in the council meetings regarding the extra burden she was carrying, that it would be a relief for her if we did hire her, because Mr. Peter has reduced the cost. So, Linda, you have my respect as well. I certainly had no concept that we were ambushing the law. I'm sorry, that's the way it appears to me. Welcome aboard, Barb. I'm looking forward to working with you. Mr. Powell? Thank you. Mr. Conroy?
I think I said mine earlier.
Well, for my piece, I would like to say that it's not because I ever thought any less of Linda, because I quite often will say to people that need this or that from the city, oh, if you go talk to Linda, she's been there so long, she knows everything. And I'm not trying to patronize, but there's a lot of things that we tabled because we're like, well, we'll wait for the new city manager, but it didn't work out the first round of interviews. And so at some point we need to move forward, and I just didn't want to pile it on. And if you did get ambushed, Linda, I am truly sorry. That wasn't the intent. But I understand that you were going to retire anyway. So I hope that it goes well for you, whatever you decide to do. Okay.
My sentiment in this, Linda, is that you have been very, very good to me through my term in office. And I guess I was thinking, the reason for voting yes tonight, my thinking was that you were anxious. You know, originally maybe I'm wrong here, I thought that you were thinking like a May 31st retirement, and then we asked you humbly if you'd stay on, and so on and so forth with the job of both the clerk and the city manager. So this is nothing personal. We've been good friends, and I hope we can be good friends in the future. It's just kind of things have jumped along here a little faster than any of us wanted, but there's work to be done, and I guess that's my sentiment, but I feel the obligation to do what I can.
Okay, Mr. Hopkins.
I didn't vote no on item C because I didn't have any problem with the new income. My thing is that London's done a lot for the city, and it should not ever do anything to upset or hurt her feelings in any way. And so if she didn't necessarily want to be placed out of that spot, I did not want to ever take that away. But I figured I didn't know how much she'd handle it all with all the upcoming election stuff. I had to leave that up to her. We decided, so that's why I moved away.
Okay. I have one more announcement. We will have a special meeting June 6th here at the council chambers to go into closed session to look at more interim city manager.
No, not interim.
Or
Panel of
people,
candidates.
potential candidates for manager. We'll be here through MML. We'll be at 7 o'clock here. We'll do a closed session like
Last time.
Last time. So, everybody got that down? Hope everybody can be here. You okay with that?
That's Monday, right?
Yeah, it's a Monday,
Yeah.
the 6th, at 7 o'clock. I had it that late so everybody could get off. They had requested us to have it the night before our council meeting, and I said, no, I don't think that would be a good time. So, Everybody that I've polled has agreed to 6, so hopefully see you all then. Hope everybody has a good holiday this weekend, and we can adjourn.